Welcome to the next installment of the Toy Storage Nation series, TSN Conversations. This series is based on questions we most often get at Toy Storage Nation. Today's topic, why Class A RV and boat storage makes sense. Today's participants are Bob Hayworth, founder and CEO of Baja Construction, and Devin Beasley, Executive Director of Capital Markets Self-Storage Advisory Group at Cushman and Wakefield. I want to mention that both Bob and Devin are Toy Storage Nation Advisory Board members. Thank you both for being here. Before we begin, I was hoping you could both introduce yourselves and give us a brief background. Bob, can we go ahead and start with you?
Sure, of course. My name is Robert Hayworth. I'm the CEO and founder of Baja Construction, and which I started in 1981. And then in 2000, I can't remember when. No, 1990, I did my first RV and boat storage for a gentleman in Las Vegas. And I went, oh, that's a great idea. And then I started giving speeches on it. Of course, no one listened to me till, let's see, when was it? It was COVID in 2020. And then all of a sudden, and because of COVID, it became a real thing and has taken off. And I built my first one in 2012, and it's probably the best thing I ever did.
Thanks, Bob. And Devin, could you tell us about yourself?
Of course. Devin Beasley, self-storage advisor with Cushman Wakefield, advisor broker. Been in the industry for about eight and a half years now. Started the RV and boat portion of our team about 2.5 years ago. Kind of saw the writing on the wall with traditional self-storage, and like Bob, saw how the growth model for RV and boat is coming along right now, and definitely wanted to jump in that space. And I love the mom and pop feel for the time being. Transition institutional, but definitely enjoying my time in the RV and boat space.
Thanks, Devin. Devin, we're getting just a tiny bit of feedback, but I can understand you, so no problem there. Just if you can mute yourself while you're not talking, so that we make sure that the video works correctly. So sorry about that. I want to go ahead and get right into our topic today. And again, it's why does Class A RV and boat storage make sense? We know it makes sense, but it's great to let folks that may have not heard of RV boat storage why it might be a great market for them to get into. So my first question is, what is your view of the current market for RV and boat storage? And what is your view of the market over the next 5 years? Do you still continue to see growth potential? So Bob, I'd like to start with you.
Sure. So, yeah, the RV and boat storage came on real strong when the COVID hit. And everybody started going out and buying RVs and boats. Since then, it's progressed, but it's still the executive class RV and boat storage is moving up, but steadily. It's not explosive like mini storage. However, that's about to change. Some of the big people that that are the leaders of mini storage are actively looking into it. There's a bunch of REITs that are forming to get into it in a very strong way. And but there's still so much pent-up demand. I mean, they've been building 300 to 500, and now we're back to 300,000 RVs a year, and there's such a pent-up demand, especially for Class A, because if you look for Class A, like I'm building a project in Manteca, and the appraiser who was with that other real estate company came out and looked at it. He couldn't find any. I had to give him all mine because he couldn't find any comps. So in the whole area of Northern California, he couldn't find any executive RV and boat storage except the ones I was building, which is only 4. So that just shows you how much opportunity there is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bob. I wanted to take a quick moment to define what we at Toy Storage Nation say of a Class A facility. And really, it's kind of been our stake in the ground. And it's 4 simple things. it needs to be covered in some manner, whether that's canopy or enclosed. It needs to be gated, it needs to be fenced, and it needs to be paved in some manner. And that could include something like a true grid as well. So those are the 4 pillars. And then anything on top of that that adds technology and such as a Noki or something that would be a class A. And the reason for that is these boats and RVs that people are buying, they're very expensive toys and they want them secured and protected. They're also willing to pay for additional amenities and conveniences. So just wanted to kind of clarify that for anybody listening that might not know what we're talking about when we say class A versus perhaps, a parking lot type of situation. So thank you for that, Bob. Devin, did you have anything to add on where you see the market now and where you see it going?
I mean, I think Bob hit the nail on the head with that. I'm fielding calls. It seems like on a daily, more likely weekly basis of more groups wanting to come in and develop RV and boat storage, the Class A executive type RV and boat storage, or converting from the Class Bs, Class Cs, non-canopy to either canopy or fully enclosed. And when you get to that level, that's when you start seeing the type of returns that make sense for a lot of people right now. I would say better returns than a lot of other product types right now, which is why we're seeing a lot of transition from, we'll say, retail multifamily or whatever it may be, and looking into the RV boat space. So yeah, I think the future for RV and boat is tremendous in that regard.
Devin, are you seeing clients that may have been into other sectors before that Cushman and Wakefield has worked with that are coming to you looking into the boat and RV space? Or do you feel like a lot of those potential investors are still needing to be educated on the benefits and the growth that's happening in storage?
I think so. To be honest with you, a lot of my clients are coming from the traditional self-storage space where they have an ancillary use of RV and boat, and they realize that ancillary use leased up in 6 months. But their traditional self-storage still took 36 months to lease up. So they're looking at a full standalone site, seeing how it works. I would say it's still a struggle for people who haven't been in the storage space to wrap their heads around the RV boat space, like multifamily, like I said, multifamily or retail, just because of the nature of that particular product type. But I mean, they understand returns, right? They understand it works well. Yeah, the numbers itself, and it has outperformed a lot of the products. So we are seeing that crossover from product types that haven't worked or beginning not to work into the RV space.
That's awesome. Thank you. Bob, and I don't want to bash traditional storage at all. It's still a phenomenal market. But given that, what do you see as the advantages of, Class A RV and boat storage over traditional storage? I know you taught me a lot about that from the get-go.
It's a totally different business. I mean, mini storage is, generally speaking, you have people with life issues who are going there not because they want to, but because they have to. And the demographic of these people are all over the boat. They can be from the richest to the poorest. It's just what life throws at them. They got to put their stuff somewhere. They go to a mini storage. As opposed to executive class RV and boat storage, it's a different class of people. It's medium demographic and higher, especially if you are a Class A facility, because you control your clientele with your rent. The higher the rent, the better the clientele. And so, like from my experience, I mean, I built my first one for myself 10 years ago, and I have not had one person not pay me 10 years. Not one. I don't know any other business you can say that about. And they're when you see them, they're happy. It's the opposite of mini storage. They're happy to be there. They come and they want to talk. They want to see their toy. I mean, they, they come because of the amenities. I mean, I'm getting easily 4 or 5 times what the gravel lot and the cyclone fence and the razor wire gets. Those guys are getting 75 to $100 a month. I'm getting probably 250 to close to $500 a month. So it's a lot more. And being that you're dealing with a medium demographic and higher, the issues you have in mini storage, like people throwing their mattresses in the the garbage containers, or throwing their old TV, or you don't have any of those things, because these people are the way business should be. They're they're respectful, they're courteous, they actually care. It actually becomes a little community where, if one person leaves their door open, they come in, the manager say, hey, number 67 left their door open, you might want to have them close. I mean, it's pleasant, it's nice, it's easy, and there's no liability because everybody insures their own vehicles. So is close to the perfect business that I've ever seen.
When you first started talking about it, Bob, when I would first listen, it sounded too good to be true. And then you talk to people that are in it and have done it right or worked with you, and it's exactly what you say as far as the clientele, and they're happy. They're going on a destination.
Right.
So
Exactly.
pretty cool. Devin,
Bob,
did you?
oh yeah, I had a question quick. Bob, would you, depending on location, right, would you suggest that somebody, I would say, upgrade their facility from, Class B, Class C to a Class A executive? Or would you suggest another route for somebody to go down?
I mean, I have a lot of people that come to me, and not very many do it. I don't know why, but that have the gravel lot, the cyclone fence, and the razor wire. And I tell them, spend the money, put in the asphalt, put in the fencing, all that. And they say, well, what about my existing customers? I said, I'm going to lose the rent, and they're going to have to. I said, you don't want those customers. You want the new ones that are coming in that will be totally different. And as long as the medium demographic is somewhere, like my first phase of Oakley was only 50 to 75,000. So, I mean, it's not a very high demographic in nowadays terms. I mean, the higher you go, the more the rent you get. But I mean, it's just basically people who have had a dream, they got their dream, they're so happy. It's kind of, in some cases, might be more important than their own children. They just love this. This is their time to enjoy life. And so, yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat, because you don't want the guys you got. You want the other guys.
Devin, are you seeing that as well as folks that are coming to you looking for, properties or existing facilities? Are, some of them not as worried about finding a Class A, but looking to find something and upgrade it?
Yeah, that's kind of why I asked the question, right? Because a number of my clients or future clients, they do have these lots well, they are dirt lots with the razor wire fence, etc. But they're in great locations or in a location that work for a Class A facility. But they are, I would say, risk adverse right now for putting the equity out to upgrade their facility, even though, to Bob's point, you can potentially double or triple your rents just by bringing it up to speed for the market, right? So a lot of my clients are weighing that option to see if it will make sense, and more often than not, they tell me yes, it makes sense, or at least do the due diligence to see if it makes sense in that market. But 9 times out of 10, from what I've seen, it makes sense in that particular market.
Would you say a lot of times someone might not be thinking that there's going to be competition, but it makes it easier for competition to come in if they're not Class A and kind of take a part of the market?
I would say yes, but I think the main hesitation is just how much money it would take to develop one of these things. I tell them to go talk to Bob and have that conversation with him.
Yeah.
Because I think at the end of the day, it makes complete sense, what you're putting out compared to what's coming in.
Right.
So
I guess that leads into the next question I would have with regards to where do you see and Bob, you kind of alluded to it. It's still an open market in many areas now. There's certain little areas where, a bunch of them, not a bunch, but, more than a few have popped up. But most areas, there's still great opportunity to get in and capture that market with just boat and RV storage overall. But that being said, competition is coming. And do you find it is important if someone can afford it to do a Class A from the get-go? Where are you seeing kind of competition threats starting to come in?
I mean, there's but there really is, kind of the area where I started in, there's a lot of people putting in RV and boat storage in the area, but it still hasn't, they would have to build a lot because you draw from a very big area. You'll draw from 30 to 60 to 90 miles away. And so as long as your location is in the middle of where people live and where they go to, vacation, which in most cases is a habit. You do the same thing every year. So that particular RV and boat storage makes sense. You're going to draw from a lot. And so my advice is, spend that extra $500,000, like on a $15 million project, which is 15 acres, 300,000 square feet. Spend that extra $500,000, put in the amenities, make yourself the Four Seasons rather than the Motel 6. And surprisingly enough, everybody's penny wise and pound foolish for that extra $500,000, which will guarantee higher rents, guarantee better customers, guarantee an easier life for the owner because you'll have less headaches and more money. Do that. But a lot of people go, well, I'm not going to put in the gravel lot, or I'm not going to put in the fence, or I'm not going to put in the canopies. The canopies alone will double your rent, even with gravel lot. So,
yeah.
And I wouldn't worry as much about, everybody says, well, if I do this extra little thing, I'll make a little bit more money. Or if I do this extra, make it simple, make it easy. Just put in the canopies, close it with the gates, do all the amenities you can possibly think of, and I'll give you ideas if you need them. But don't make your life more difficult. Make it simple, because then it becomes, a cash cow. It just gives you money. It's a great, and I know I'm talking too much. It's a great inheritance vehicle for your children, because all they have to do is walk around the site that everything's on credit card, ACH, and look at their bank account. That's it. That's all they got to do to run a business. Simple. Even I could do it. If I could do it, my kids could do it, right? So.
Got it. Thank you.
Because they know computers, I don't.
Devin, did you have anything to add there?
The only thing I've, we're seeing a lot. Well, I can't say a lot, but I would say a lot for there's a lot of pocketed development. It seems like people are chasing the first person in, especially in the Sunbelt states right now, and you don't have to do that anymore, right? There's a lot of other markets outside of the Sunbelt states where RV boat work very well now. People are realizing that. I don't want to say it's going to ever get oversaturated because, like to Bob's point, we're so undersaturated with the number of Class A compared to the RVs being shipped. But we are seeing kind of a follow the leader type of mentality with RV and boat development for the first timers. I would say people who've done it for a while understand. You can go more than likely anywhere and work as long as you do due diligence, feasibility, etc. So I would say look outside the box a little bit. What other people have been doing.
Got it. And I guess I was trying to allude to the fact of, now is the time. If you're thinking about this and you have the resources, don't sit on it, because that great area you're thinking of, someone else or a REIT may come in and grab that land for you now. So, I've heard Joe Beth White say it before, if you're thinking about it, now is the time. Get in now and start talking to folks like you. Bob, I wanted to ask you a question a little bit about Baja, because the great thing about this industry is that, someone might be thinking of Baja from the construction side, or, the canopy, or the fabulous work you do within solar. But you really are an expert kind of at all phases. You can be a consultant overall in a project. So I just was hoping you could tell us a little bit about the breadth of someone that wanted to come with to you. And I don't mean to ask you for too much, but I think it's really good to get an understanding of that it's not kind of, well, they just pigeonhole in one area. You really have expertise that can guide people through.
Sure. So, I mean, our theory, or my theory, is basically I want to help everyone build one of these, because it's the best thing I ever did, and I'm not going to live long enough, and or do I have enough money to build as many as are possible. It's a phenomenal number, so I can't do it all. So I want to help all of our customers do it, and we have definitely the most expertise on how to lay one out and the amenities you want, how to do that. And we get so if someone just sends a site plan or a plot plan, we'll do a layout for them. We usually get 50 to 60% coverage. We can help them with their design if they want. We're not architects, but we can guide them through the process. And then we can help you with the amenities and the placement of the office. And I mean, like my first one, the only mistake I did was I had a right-hand turn going into our facility. Well, that's not a good idea, because right-hand turns, when something's 60 foot long, it's not a good idea. Mm-hmm. So that and some other things, but yeah, no, we would love to help you. Basically, I give my cell phone out to pretty much everyone, so just call me, I'll help you. We have a whole team that can pretty much help you through the process, guide you to the possible architects and civil engineers and all that, and tell you what I would do and what I wouldn't do. And just, yeah, we want to see successful people, and all I ask in return is they buy my canopies. That's it. Simple.
How long is your turnaround?
Beg your pardon?
How long is your turnaround time? Somebody approaches you.
I mean, we can do a layout in 2 weeks. Yeah, and then from the time we get an order, we can probably have material on site in 12 weeks, and we do all our own construction with our own crews. We don't sub anything out. So I mean, we'll knock out a big project in probably, I don't know, 6 to 12 weeks, just depending on the schedule. So, and we're nationwide. We go we'll go anywhere in the United States. So
thanks, Bob.
No, we actually have done work in Hawaii and Alaska, so that's not true. We haven't gone to any of the territories.
Soon.
And, I didn't ask that for the fact that, I don't mean for these to be promotional, but that being said, it's educational folks needing to know that information, because there still is a misunderstanding. I think people that come from storage and maybe who've had development experience understand this, but I get folks who've come from so many different industries that have never had anything to do with the development, and they're shocked at the amount of expertise and help along the way that they can get from your company. So I think it's good for people to know, hey, you got a question, there's nothing too big or small, call Bob. So I don't know if that's a new promo for you.
Well, thank you. That was very nice. Appreciate it.
And Devin, the same for you too. I mean, you've quickly made a name for yourself. I have other brokers who call me about you because they know, the expertise you've gained within the RV and boat storage market. And you've really educated yourself on many different areas, and not just what you would think a broker would do. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why it's important to kind of understand the whole market and even aspects of it that you might not think would be attached to what your day-to-day is.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's fully encompassing, right? You want to know as much as you can about a certain space because you're going to have those questions that come up. I mean, yes, I'm a broker, right? That's how I get paid at the end of the day, but I'm an advisor first, and I want to make sure that my clients are happy with the products and or the consultants that they're working with to get them across the line. I mean, you know, this is their baby, especially if you're mom and pop, you're raising this kid, you said, like Bob said, it's retirement, more often than not. And you don't want somebody who you're working with to not guide you at least or walk you hand in hand in the right direction. So, you know, starting out with, you know, site selection to demos in the market to is it the right rental race? You know, we don't do full feasibilities. I point people to Joe Beth or somebody else. But we do help on that high level, you know, that high level conversation to make sure it's the right spot and the right decision that they need to make, and then they can, you know, go forward with their plans. And also, you know, I would assume that if I was building one, I would want somebody to help me throughout the whole process and understand most, if not all, the process at some certain level. So that's why, you know, my head's been down, trying to understand as much as I can.
It's awesome to have folks like you, and the fact that you're, you know, this is a market that's amazing that, you know, in our workshops, it will be, you know, folks from all areas of the industry, and you may, you know, you guys work on certain projects together, your competitors in certain areas, but everybody's willing to help, and even share information amongst yourselves and one another for the betterment of the industry. And that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah.
I know we talked a little bit about already, and I just want to give, because I do get this question a lot about rents. You know, you've done the right site selection, you've done your due diligence to make sure that's you know, what rents should be at, the rentability, but we talked about, does it justify becoming a Class A for the rents? And Bob, I think you probably have some case history or whatnot you could share, just the type of rent. And I know every area is different, but, you know, can you give us some examples of the types of rent you can see being an executive level Class A? And I know you have to be careful because every site is different and every market is different.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the perfect example is where I built my first facility in Oakley, right? So when it was, the demographic was 50 to 75, I think we started out at 45 cents a square foot. And everybody thought it was nuts, and it filled up quickly. The first one was in 2013. So we were kind of struggling a little bit. It took a little while to fill up. The second phase was 2018. It filled up in 30 days. And the third phase filled up pretty quick in like 3 or 4 months, something like that. But so, and now the demographic in Oakley is probably 75 to 90, maybe 100. It's going up, and I'm getting 65 cents. But 20 minutes away is Livermore, and they're getting their demographic is 90 to 140,000. They're getting $1.10 a square foot. So it kind of depends. I mean, and you'll pull these the higher demographic, they'll pull easily 30 miles, maybe more, but definitely 30 miles because there isn't anything around. And they're willing to pay more and get a spot that's, I mean, all you're providing is you're providing a place to park it, protection from the elements, and security, right? But they'll also pay more to have it clean, well kept, and you know, with a lot of amenities so that they can save time, because that's your biggest enemy is time, right? When you have money and you work hard, and it is time. And so the more amenities you have on site, ice, you know, propane, dump site, wash area, all those things save them time. So all they do is come to your facility, get their rig going, come back, do all the things necessary to put it to bed and go home, right? Shower the kids. I have a shower in mine, so they can shower the kids before they put them in pajamas. Do that 30 or 60 or 90-mile drive home. So, but it has, I would say on an average, you're at least 50. I mean, you can guarantee you'll get 50 cents a square foot. And in a lot of areas like Colorado, Florida, Northern California, some parts of Southern California, you can be $1 to $1.30, which all of a sudden you're competing with mini storage rates at the same level, but your cost is a third of that. And then you don't have all those other issues with mini storage, you don't have auctions, you don't have to do any of that stuff. If they don't pay, you sell it, done. Or you call the towing company, they tow it away.
Thanks, Bob.
So
You
yeah,
always-
no,
every time I hear you, it's like, this is a no-brainer.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I think. That's all I'm building anymore. I'm not doing anything else.
Devin, did you have anything to add?
No, that was
Bob got it.
great. I mean, yeah, the one thing I will add is there's not a lot of information out there on rents in the market and demos in the market. So it's a little bit harder right now to, I would say, initially justify rates. To Bob's point, I think the rates will be justified if you build it correctly, right? But when you're looking out, that's the reason you call myself, that's the reason you call Bob, et cetera, to help you out, figure out the rates in the market. But I think that's one of the main hurdles for a lot of people that I talk to is what rates can be charged. And that is a reason that a lot of people are hesitant in my world to build them because they don't know what they're charging to yet for development. That is one of the major hesitation factors for a lot of people right now.
It's interesting you say that, Devin, because I did a session on, first steps.
Mhm.
And it was Jo Beth White and Greg Ellsworth and Chris Koenig. And the first thing that Jo Beth said is you got to make sure what the rental rates are going to be. So, when she looks at anything, that's what she's looking at in that area and making sure that what you're looking to build is going to justify the rental rate you're looking to get. And so I get a lot of calls that folks don't even know they need a feasibility person. They have a lot of questions for me and I keep pointing back, I'll give you a feasibility person. I'll give you a feasibility person to make sure that what you're looking to do makes sense, the area or the unit mix or whatever it is. But yeah, I get it. Huge concern. How do you guys feel about phasing? Meaning someone might have and could you give me kind of the land size? And that's another question I get. Folks looking at a piece of land, and of course, it's all dependent on where it's at and the market and whatnot. So I always send them back to someone like yourselves or feasibility. But that being said, what size land is good? Is there anything else that you typically look for in the land? But also with phasing, is that something that you see a lot? Someone is looking to have a larger site, but they can start at one level and continue to build on. And then can you continue to, open the business, get it going, and then can continue into construction? I don't know who wants to take that one first.
I'll take it first. That's fine.
Go ahead.
All right. I think you kind of answered that. I think it depends on the size of that project, right? In the existing facilities, if there are any, if you're building a 20-acre site in a market that hasn't been proven out yet for RV and boat, I would probably phase it. That's just me, right? I would phase the first half with canopy and the second half with maybe just paved and go from there. And at that point, you're really just testing out your own project. People ask me how big the projects, or I guess the minimum size of the project should be. I usually tell them between 7 acres plus, between 7 and 20 acres. But I did sell a facility here in Mesa, Arizona. It was 3 acres with 168 spots, and it sold for more than the owner ever thought of something at the time. So
Oh,
I do think it really is a factor of that location of how big you can build. But that 3 acres wasn't urban site, so it made sense that it was small.
Bob, did you have anything to add about the actual land itself? You know, size
Yeah,
of
I
the
mean, the
phasing?
problem with phasing, because my Oakley was in 3 phases. I mean, and the reason my first phase was 7 acres when I owned 12 was because that's all the bank would give me, right? So that's the reason I phased it. And when I do speeches and stuff, I tell everybody, they say, well, how big should I build? Whatever the bank will give you, build it. Go as much as you can, because it's not gonna get any cheaper, the construction or the land, right? So build it now and you'll do better. The problem with phasing, like, because I'm working on a site in Illinois with some other gentlemen, and you know, they want it because they're a little bit more, because they've never done RV and boat, and they're experienced mini storage guys. And they said, well, you know, we should phase it. And I go, okay, you gotta look at the big picture here. You gotta, to make the site work, you're gonna have to grade the whole site. You're gonna have to do the detention pond. You're gonna have to do basically all the infrastructure for the whole site, period. So the only thing you're gonna be phasing really is the carport canopies. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with a messy site, which you can do that, that'll work, because you know, the carports are, they're a number, not as big as grading and paving, of course, but it's a pretty big number. And so if you go ahead and fence it all, pave it all, put in all the infrastructure, you can phase the carport canopies, you know, depending on your economic situation. As far as size of sites, the problem with 3 acres is, unless you're gonna manage it yourself, that works. But if you're gonna hire managers, your overhead's gonna be the point where you're gonna be trading dollars, because it's too small. I think 7 acres, like Devin says, is a good place to start. That's a good place. That your overhead will be okay. It won't be the best. It'll, you know, probably be 30%, won't be 20, right? But that's okay. You can make that work. And it's a nice size site to kind of get the feeling of how things work. I'm doing all 15-acre sites now because fortunately the banks will loan me that amount. They won't loan me any more than that, but they'll loan me up to that. And I know that number, so that works for me. The REITs are looking for 1,000-acre sites, which is 30 acres, right? So, but 15 is a step real close to that. It only takes 2 of those to make 30, and they're okay with that. So it just kind of depends on, I would build as much as you can, as soon as you can. That would be my recommendation. And I mean, a lot of people like to manage their own stuff. So if you want to manage it, 3 acres works. So that's all I have to say. But phasing, I would build as much as you can, whatever you can borrow or afford to, right?
Basically get it done now.
Yeah, exactly.
Devin, did you have anything that you wanted to add there? Thanks, Bob.
No, that was
Yeah.
great.
Once again,
Taught me about something too. So
one thing that I didn't ask, and I don't think I've asked it, funny enough, and I talk about this with a lot of folks that come into this industry that have sold other businesses. And one of the main reasons they sold it is having to deal with a lot of employees. It turned into basically adult daycare in some ways. I don't mean to be speaking of anything. That being said, that's why boat and RV storage kind of speaks to them. And can you talk a little bit about that? You know, should you have a manager, the great thing is it's not employee intensive, right? For the amount of business that you're able to do.
Mm.
But, you know, as far as, you know, what are your thoughts of, you know, having some managed sites or having someone on site, that type of thing, you know, where do you see the benefits from an employee standpoint, why boat and RV storage makes sense? No one wants to
Wanna
jump
go
in,
that one?
I promise.
So I mean, the way I did it was, which I like, is I have 3 part-time or 3 or 4, whatever, however many there are. They're all related, so they just interchange. I got a great manager. She started when I opened, and she has a lot of daughters, thank God. And so they just switch out. So but they only work less than 30 hours. They work 24 hours a week. So they're still part-time employees. And which is great because you don't have to give all the other, especially in the state of California, you don't have to give all those other benefits. And so it makes it a lot easier. And you can manage it yourself. I mean, I managed it, which is crazy because I can't manage anything. So, but it works. If you wanted the farther away you get it, I used to manage it, and of course now I moved away from there, but by just going by there, you know, once a week or a couple times a week. But now I live, what is it? I don't know, 800, 600 miles away, 2-hour flight anyway. So now I really can't do that, but I have other people who do. So then at that point, you probably want to bring in some sort of professional management team that's going to charge you, you know, 4, 5, 6%. So it's a cost, and trust me, well, I'm going to say it anyway, they're not going to do as good a job as you would, okay? Because it's a business for them, and they're giving you a service, but it's not their baby. They don't love it like you do, and love the people like you do. It's just they're into giving return on investment for their customers, for their clients, which is the owners, right? So it's a little different vibe, is the only thing. But yeah, I mean, it's very inexpensive. My overhead, of course, I did all solar, and the solar is exempt from property tax, which helps a ton. But my overhead's like only 20%, so it's not very much.
Thanks, Bob. And if you don't mind, I'm on a later installment, I'd love to cover solar because there's so many crazy good things happening there that it almost seems unbelievable until you kind of spell it out and it's real.
Yeah, I equate it to the executive RV and boat storage is the cupcake, right? And the solar is the sprinkles on the cupcake. Yeah.
It's a good analogy.
Really?
Now you're making me hungry. It's around and I did a run this morning, so.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Devin, did you have anything to add from that perspective, from, you know, a management or employee kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a management standpoint, especially for first-time developers, I'm in Bob's boat, right? You want to manage it yourself, or at least have a big hand in how management goes. At your property, you want to learn about the property. You want to learn the ins and outs, especially if you plan to do, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 more of these to make sure it's run properly. And plus, there's not a lot of management companies out there right now that I'm aware of that manage, you know, standalone RV sites and or manage well. Yeah, I'm on board with what Bob said. You know, be that manager for the first one, or if you do hire somebody, make sure you're involved as much as possible for the outcome that you want at that property.
Got it. Thank you. I'm cognizant of time. I am watching it. So thank you so much for everything today. Before we finish, I wanted to make sure that we went back to both of you, got your name, company, your contact information. And for anybody watching this, if you got to it from the Toy Storage Nation website, you can find Devin and Bob, or I should be calling you Robert, um, on the website. But I want to make sure we put it on the video for anybody that happens to get to it on YouTube from other places. And also, if you just have any last thoughts, if there's something that we didn't cover in the next 3 minutes, you know, that you thought was important. So, Devin, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah. I think Bob and Amy, you'll agree, if you have, for me, if you have a plan to move forward with something, I suggest do it now. I know just from conversations, a lot of people are going to start jumping into the space. They're going to start building more and more Class A RV and boat storage. So, timing is of the essence right now, especially with the potential of interest rates going down. You never know what's going to happen, but if that happens, I can see a lot more people coming off the sidelines to either acquire or develop. So you don't want to be the last one, right? You will want to be the first, at least the first bunch. But yeah, no, to answer your question, you can reach me at my cell, 703-795-9942, or devin.beasley@cushwake.com. Always answer my phone, always answer my email. So
You don't want me to give out your personal home address?
not yet, not maybe one day.
Just saying that's out there.
That was cute.
And Bob?
Yeah, so you just have to, and I'm going to repeat myself, can't help it, but this is the best business I've ever been in. Makes money, has no liability. Basically, there's no headaches, right? And you're dealing with happy people, which is unusual. And with something of value that if they don't pay you, you can sell it, right? So it's the perfect business. And you are, just imagine if you'd been in the beginning where mini storage started. If you had built mini storages 40 years ago, that's where you are today with executive RV boat storage. These things don't come along very often. And you're here at that point in time where you could be very, very successful with not too large amount of effort. And so, yeah, I just agree with everything Devin said. And yeah, your biggest enemy is procrastination. So quit procrastinating, go build one. And I like Devin, answer my phone whenever. My wife makes me turn it off from 8 in the evening till 5 in the morning. But other than that, my phone number is 925-766-2612. I answer my phone. No one answers it for me. And my email is bob@Baja Carports, BAJACARPORTS.com. I'm more than willing to help anyone with their project. I want to see everybody be as successful or more so than I am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob. And I promise not to give full directions to your home either. And anybody watching this doesn't understand, we all happen to live in the Phoenix, Arizona area. I'm joking about that, or I'd seem very not professional right now. I wanted to give you my contact information real quick as well, and thank both of you so much for your time. I know you're both very busy, and the fact that you're willing to give everyone an hour of your time just talking about this industry and giving your insight is amazing. And I hope folks do reach out to you. My name is Amy Bix. I am president of Toy Storage Nation. My email, you can contact me. It's Amy, it's just amy.bix@toystoragenation.com. If you have any questions, my phone number is 602-909-3910. And you can go to the Toy Storage Nation website. It's simply its namesake, toystoragenation.com. There you're going to find a wealth of information, whether it's articles, case studies, reports that cover the boat and RV storage market and really focus a lot on Class A. In addition to that, we have a membership program where in March it's coming out. We have a very extensive guide that covers just about every topic you can think of. We've got some great pieces from Devin and Bob in there. That is part of the membership program. We also do full day intensive workshops. It is a full day where we cover every topic A to Z. Devin, for instance, covers investing. Bob covers canopy construction and actually takes us on a facility tour. We cover feasibility, marketing, every security, every topic in between. But more important than the presentations and content is the one-on-one time you're going to get with these experts to ask your specific questions. You can find information for our workshops on our site as well. The last thing I'd like to do is invite you to join their newsletter. It comes out once a month and gives a lot of great information. So again, it's amy.bix@toystoragenation.com. And thank you everyone for listening. And thank you so much, Bob and Devin, for being a part of this and sharing your knowledge and your expertise.
Of course.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. See you later.